I don't think he's interested in canceling fundraisers.
He cancels fundraisers, right? Never.
He really doesn't care that his ratings can't get worse. He's going to do what he wants.
Everyone expects a president to be a politician as well, but that just has to take the back seat when there is a real crisis.
It's just the optics of it. I mean, he's got, he doesn't give the impression that he is working so often.
When would he cancel?
What would it take to actually cancel a fundraiser?
And here he goes again. This time, President Obama taking off for the West Coast for a 3-day fundraiser-filled trip. The president expected to attend at least 5 fundraisers in Seattle, San Francisco, and L.A. So what about the big 3 crises? Our border crisis, Ukraine, and Israel. Joining us, former congressman and author of Guardian of the Republic, Alan West. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Greta. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Now, I know that the Air Force One is like a full office and you do a lot of business while you're traveling, but the whole idea of the optics, the message he is sending, not just to the American people, but to Putin, to Netanyahu, to Angela Merkel, to everyone else around the world is watching, make a difference?
Yeah, it does make a difference, because what it seems to be is that being the president of the United States is a byproduct of being the fundraiser-in-chief. When you think about what is happening globally, when you look at Japan seeking to change its constitution so that it can now have a full army and not just a restricted self-defense force, you look at what has just occurred in Ukraine with Russian-supported paramilitary force that shot down a civilian aircraft. They have restricted access to that crash site. They are contaminating that site. We don't have the black boxes. We don't know what's going on with the remains. The nuclear talks with Iran have failed. We still have a pastor that is incarcerated in Iran, an American pastor. You see what is happening between Israel and Hamas. We have rockets landing near Ben Gurion Airport. We have ISIS that is committing genocide against century-old Christian civilizations that are there. We have a crisis on our border, a state governor who has sent the National Guard to the border, while we now still have a United States Marine in a prison in Mexico. Now's not the time to run away from the White House. Now's the time to show resolute leadership.
I'm trying to figure out why he's doing this, because he's got to know how it looks. Regardless of whether he's on the phone all the time, and we get readouts that he's on the phone to Prime Minister Netanyahu, other people, but he must, it's like, I can't figure out, like, does he not get how it looks to so many, even his own supporters, even the Democrats are concerned. The only thing I can think of is he's trying to roll the dice for the midterms, and that if he loses the Senate, the Democrats lose the Senate, he's going to say, well, don't blame me, I at least tried to raise you money.
Well, then obviously it is an act of narcissism where he is focused on himself, and so that he is not held responsible for anything that comes out of the midterms. But let me put it in perspective, having been a former military commander. If during the time when I was a commander over in Iraq, if I just sat at the CP headquarters and just listened on the radio instead of never going out and being with my soldiers in combat operations or engagements, what type of leader would I be? And so that is what we're looking for. We're not looking for someone that tries to alleviate any sense of alarm, because we have a 24-hour news cycle. We're quite aware. But what we need to do is have a steady hand on the helm of this ship called the United States of America. You're not seeing that. We're not leading. We're leading from behind, which down south we call that following. And I believe that the president is more so concerned about going to these fundraising events where he's applauded. It is all about him, instead of sitting there in the White House and making some of these tough decisions and alleviating some of these issues that we see across the country and including the world.
We only have about 30 seconds left, but I don't get that he likes the job. It's sort of, I think he almost hates the job. At least remember when Bill Clinton was under it, got a lot of heat from the Republicans. They were trying to throw him out. At the whole time, he acted like he still liked the job.
Yeah, that's a very key point. I think that in the first 2 years when he had the House and Senate, he was free to do whatever he wanted and get his agenda passed. But now when he has to show an ability to lead and also to inspire people to follow him, he's failing in that aspect. And so what do? You run away and you get on Air Force One. And that carbon footprint is getting kind of big, I would say.
Congressman, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greta.